With that, I would like to open up the floor and to give the first question. Ivan, would you like to?
Yes, hi. May I ask you two things? Firstly, on VEON, which was the centerpiece of today's presentation, pretty much. So I was just wondering, how are you planning to displace the existing incumbents in this space, like WhatsApp or any other messengers which is out there? Aren't you afraid of cannibalization, right? Generally speaking, what kind of investment do you foresee for this? Is it $100 million, or it can be much, much more? So I think that's something that worries both investors and myself and analysts in general. And the second question is on the dividends. How exactly is it linked to the free cash flow? So if, for example, this year it's 23 cents of about $600 million, do we need to think about this as proportionate increase with the free cash flow? So proportionate increase to $1 billion of free cash flow will yield the same increase in dividends, or it's something else? Thank you.
You want to start with dividends?
Sure, why not?
All right.
We will start with dividends. So the language is deliberately flexible, right? So yeah, it's not going to be directly proportional. So we want the dividend policy which is going to be sustainable and progressive over time. And as the equity-free cash flow evolves, then so will the dividend payment. But you shouldn't bank on, if we guide to a 10% improvement or whatever in equity-free cash flow, that you can therefore just simplistically assume a 10% increase in the dividend payout either. Okay, so it'll be progressive, it'll be based on, but not directly linked to.
Okay, on the first part of the question, do we risk cannibalization? Yes is the answer. And our strategy is, in fact, to cannibalize part of our business rather than have others cannibalize, ultimately, our business. But as Christopher took us through, we see this equation as not a risk management equation. We think that this is potentially a growth equation for the business, as well as an opportunity to fundamentally re-engineer further our cost structure and the way that we operate ultimately as a business. So we're looking for new revenue streams on one hand, but on the other hand, we're looking for changes in our cost model, changes in distribution costs as we go online for everything, changes in customer support costs as we deal with things online versus in the brick and mortar matter. So that's how we think of this, ultimate equation. In terms of how we intend to compete, Christopher, do you want to say a couple of words there against the OTTs?
That's a very important question, of course. And the recipe is differentiation against these messaging platforms. So let's recall where they stand at the moment. These are messaging platforms like we know them. But what they don't have is two things. First of all, interestingly, they don't have the access to the contextual data which we have. That is the irony of the telecoms industry. And Yogesh has shown that chart, what a context and richness of that we do have in order to work together with these services. That is simply something others cannot do in the messaging space. But of course, that cannibalization element around being truly free and our free message around data connectivity is the key differentiating element in the beginning to break into that phalanx of messaging services. What's important when we are taking up and initiating in the marketplace that we create that element of virality. And what we're doing here, and didn't talk about that, we are putting in place some get members program. So if you join the Italian app, in the verge of the first 6 clicks, you can add your 6, 7, 8 friends or dearest colleagues or family members to your personal network, no matter where they are, and you incentivize, you're getting at the moment a free gigabyte in Italy for adding a friend, up to 10 friends, that's possible. And that is very simple to create these micro networks which are there. You've asked also the question of investment, and this clearly is not an investment north of $100 million. If you look at 2016, these were very low double-digit US million numbers, what we invested. We roughly operate our internal competencies at the moment with 120 people in product management and software, very concentrated, and have been able to pull this out, but we'll be increasing that team basically to 2.5 times that size during the course of 2017.
Very good. Next question, please. Dalibor.
Thank you. My question is a follow-up on the earlier one on the cannibalization side and the revenue economics of this. So essentially, I don't know if you can tell us how much of your total service revenue is SMS that can potentially be under threat. That's the first part. Second is, what exactly are you going to be offering for free? Is it going to be the videos as well, or you know, what type of content will actually be potentially free? Would be free and therefore for cannibalizing the others. The third one, and sorry, I probably asked two more, like which is all part of one, if you don't mind, Bart.
I know the trick.
The third one is, what sort of competitive responses are you expecting to this? I was just reading literally a couple of minutes ago that MTS is going to be launching in Russia free mobile data sponsored by advertising. I don't know if it's a response to this or whether it's a separate initiative, but it looks like that competitors will also try to revamp their models. So how much? And the fourth one is what, you know. I mean, I understand that the platform is quite unique and difficult to replicate. Nonetheless, you've managed to do it in a very short time. I assume that if some of your competitors throw some money at it, they could possibly achieve some of these things as well. I perhaps not, but I just wanted to see, is it a really now game for time for you, where you want to get this momentum very quickly, and if you don't get it in 6 months, 9 months, and then there's a threat that someone else may be entering this space? Shall we say it like that, or you think that you have something more unique, more sustainable, that even if it takes year and a half, that you're still okay and it's unlikely to be replicated?
Christopher, you want to take some of those questions?
Yes,
and maybe I can
I'm happy
point
to,
to
and then
Shell
these-
on the MTS and how the Russian operators might replicate this.
I'm happy
Christopher,
to comment on these. Should I go there?
Yeah, it's a
Comment
distinct
on
feeling.
these questions, because they are key questions, of course. First of all, what is for free? There is a clear delineation in the user experience. So when you're in the VION system and you as a user do recognize that, you are in there for free. That includes playing a music track or playing a certain trail in a video when you're still in that. But you will clearly see that you leave the ecosystem and, for instance, would go to a YouTube stream outside of the VION platform and end up in YouTube. In that moment, you will be charged for data. So that is very clearly indicated for users. We are very diligent on how far we go, because we are actually designing that user experience together with the partners, how actually content is displayed in a messaging experience, how you could order a taxi or book a table in such a messaging experience. So that is the limit of that. Are we afraid of a competitive move? I think we are at a speed with that company and a clarity of also the intention of the shareholder to transform their business, that it will take telcos as we know them 1.5 years of a debate whether that is at all feasible. So I think we're going to run now, and it's true. This is not about a linear growth. We need to really achieve viral growth in the very short term, in the first 18 to 24 months with that platform. It's not something which you can postpone into 5-6 years out from here. So these are the key answers.
Shell, any perspective on Russia and how you see VION positioned against the others?
I think what I could add to what Christopher was saying is that, of course, everything can be copied in this world. There's nothing that can't be copied over time. So this is more about setting up a new platform that will be evolving over time. So what we will launch in Q2 2017 will be exciting. But of course, when we work on that for the next 6, 9 months, 12 months, working with more partners, getting more offerings on this platform, we are creating a position and a culture in a company that is on the move all the time. And if you want to catch up by copying, I don't think it's a very easy concept. Yogesh knows how long it has taken to build up the first-class DMP platform that we have. The data management platform of Beeline is good. It's not something that's going to be ready in 9 months. It is ready. We can use it today. So setting all these things in motion tying it together and having the culture of constant improvement that we're going to build there is going to give us a head start. And then, of course, sometimes you will see people trying to come up with something to create a bit of noise, or maybe so it doesn't look so exciting what the innovator is coming up with, but that's normal. And advertised, sponsored data, I don't want to speak negatively about our competition, but I do remember there was a time when you can have voice calls, so you could be interrupted in all kinds of ways, and you get it for free. Giving away value in that sense, I don't find that super exciting, to be honest. So we want to get people on board because they see a value every day of being on the platform.
Can I make one more comment, please? Because I think that might be interesting for you as our analysts and investors. You know, I came back from the software industry after 7 years being a serial entrepreneur and was quite hesitant to re-enter a telco scheme, you know, knowing that. And I was in there for 12 years with another big telco decades ago already. I'm an old man. But it's very important to know for you that we are only doing this in terms of innovation. This is not like a big telco operator who has 2,500 R&D projects and development projects and then does advertise something on a fair like Barcelona. When we took this decision together for VEON, we stopped any other project in the company. This is like a startup, a massive Silicon Valley startup, which is crowding around a single mission, creating VEON. And we are announcing today to you that we are rebranding a company, VEON, and the name of their platform is also VEON. So I'd like to give you just a sense of how radical this endeavor is for the company. This is not an afterthought. And that is not nothing at the sidelines of something, or where somebody goes into an advertising messaging app somewhere, number 17 of my R&D projects. This is it for us. We want to break the paradigm. We want to play on par with the heavyweights in that industry and create something entirely new for users out there.
All right. Here, Nick, third row.
Thanks very much, Nick Delfas from Redburn. Two questions. A fairly simple one, first of all, on the Italian dividend. Is the test every 6 months, every 12 months? Is it payable on a rolling 12-month basis, quarterly? And then just to go back on VEON, the other question, if I am a WIN subscriber and I haven't recharged for a month, is it still free? If I'm a Vodafone subscriber, what aspect of it is free? If you could just explain a little bit more the charging model. Thanks.
Yeah. So
Dividends.
Italy dividends. I'll address your question and I make a couple of other observations as well as part of that. So first of all, it's not actually correct to just talk about them as dividends to start off with, right? I mean, I think you recall when we announced the transaction that we basically we kept over 5 billion euros of the shareholder loan that previously was in place in the old Hutch structure in place. So for the first several years, distributions from that Italian joint venture will actually be in the form of repayment of the shareholder loan, which is, first of all, really tax efficient. And secondly, you don't have to go through the bureaucratic process of having audited financial statements, formally declaring a dividend, et cetera, and therefore, as part of that, all we need to do is for 2 successive quarters pass the relevant leverage threshold test, and then we can just make the distributions as and when we want to. And to be clear, the leverage test is the only thing that's important. So there is no other structural limitations which exist within the financing documentation within that JV either. I mean, when we did the 3 rounds of refinancing of wind from early 14 through to Q1 of 15, we cleaned up all the documentation and made the debt structure completely fit for purpose within the new joint venture. Okay.
For free?
It's free, yeah. And it's also free if you don't top up, but you're alluding to the question of fair usage and abuse. We'll be, careful about that as we go along. But at the moment, we really open the gate, to get this going. But we will be, managing that process, also in terms of how we create the user experience and how far we go in including actually certain consumer experiences and where you hand over, to an application outside. So this is a very important topic. And as a Vodafone customer, you're out of that paradigm at the moment in Italy. So you can use the VEON application, of course, but not free of data. So you are incurring data charges at Vodafone, and here's an incentive, which we also use, of course, in converting customers, because we have the knowledge. Here's a VEON user on another network to connect him and pull him in. And that is why a market share gain most likely out of VEON.
Very good. Georgios, at the end.
So, just to follow up on your answer around the acquisition path from VEON. If I'm a Vodafone customer in Italy, presumably...
I hope you're not a Vodafone customer.
Well, I'm not in Italy. I'm not a Vodafone customer, but presumably the experience will not be the same as when I'm a Wind customer, because you don't have all the network information. So how would the user experience look versus what you just demonstrated earlier? And then you mentioned during your presentation a significant reduction in the cost of gross ads from, let's say, 25 euros to 9 or 8. In Italy in particular, there is some verification processes you need to follow. I'll be very interested if you can talk us through the path to verification if I go through VEON versus going to a shop in order to migrate.
And we will do that to get a maximum on the verification process. So the user experience for a Wind customer is, as I've shown it, starting in the second quarter. To date, it's only the messaging experience, which has already produced, after only 3 weeks of advertising, more than 1 million of downloads. So that's there. For a competitor's network customer, you can still access the content, of course, I've shown, like Vivendi and Studio Plus, or music tracks, etc. But you're reaching certain limitations on the contextual internet services. Of course, our identity and the data on file will develop in VEON even without the network connection, because you would get a customer consent of using maybe location, and with each transaction you are starting to create a profile and can segment, etc. But it is limited in comparison when you have the fully fledged access to network data, which Jorges has shown on his chart, and that is the differentiation. I would say you in the beginning maybe lacking 20 or 30% on that element, but we will also be able to do a lot. And that brings me to the onboarding process you're asking in Italy. First of all, it's a very simple process in Italy. You're automatically detecting your phone number, the MSI is in the end. You just have to confirm that this is you and that your name is right. We're asking for your email, we're asking for your payment details, and we're giving an incentive to leave us the payment details. In the case of Italy, you get a 10% discount on your telco bundle. In the first cohort of users, after a couple of weeks, we have a conversion rate of significant double-digit of users giving us payment details, which is a revolution. It's not easy. And then we go into the consents you need in Italy. So we were heavily studying the legal environment in Italy, what you need there in terms of, do you need a password, yes or not, to access a service like that? What are the consents on data? But please, Maximo, help me out a bit. You might even better understand where the question is targeted.
Your question, who made the question? Okay, yeah. Your question is more on what we call the e-commerce side. So the fact that you can buy the SIM card and then you can manage your digital onboarding without passing by the retail distribution footprint. This is one of the developments that VEON will have. So the full digital onboarding without passing by the retail footprint. And when you look at it, then you will notice that as a market standard average, the acquisition cost is approximately between 20 and 25 euros. This will drop significantly because then you will have the logistic costs, and maybe you will have just something more in terms of digital customer recognition. But Christopher is perfectly right saying that this is going to become a low digit, just one single digit acquisition cost. So that process is something that will be managed by VEON. At the moment, it's important to create the right engagement, to capture the credit card, to manage the contents in terms of revenue sharing, because it's also important based on another question that has been made in terms of revenue cannibalization. On one hand, there can be some revenue cannibalization, but on the other hand, there is a significant potential value creation thanks to these content partnerships. So again, the real key success factor is customer experience. The way it is managed right now, and this is something that customers are now really stating and commenting, is that you can do everything with only just 1-2 steps. This is actually important. It has to be easy, and at the same time has to have all the most important differentiating contents moving forward, not only my account and not only the automatic top-up or just normal top-up. So,
very good. No worries, everybody will get a chance. We have time. I had already pre-selected Hervé.
Thank you. A question again on VEON and in terms of the tariff policy. I mean, do you see VEON as an opportunity at the same time you launch a platform, let's say, for example, in Russia, as changing your tariff policy, especially on the prepaid and on the low end of the prepaid? So do you think it could be a tool that can be used potentially as well to change and make other players change their tariff policy? And I'm particularly thinking of Russia as one. The second question is, in terms of the rollout and the speed of the rollout in the different countries, I guess you had some talk already with some of the regulator about those free rating pricing. I was wondering, is there some countries where the regulator is not or is more difficult for you to put that model out? And finally, just why did you go for a soft launch in Italy? What was the reason behind it?
Okay, let me try and maybe take the questions in reverse. So soft launch in Italy was really about testing and gaining knowledge about an alpha version of the product rather than waiting basically to have the full-fledged release that Christopher demonstrated. I think we're breaking really the paradigm of not doing these 2 or 3 year developments and then rolling out something. Since we've launched in Italy, I don't know how many releases we've rolled out. 7 releases. We're getting really into the Silicon Valley OTT model, leaving behind really the telco model of quarters, if not years, to do development work. All right, and so going into alpha beta versions for us is absolutely critical to gain that expertise and gain the knowledge in the marketplace. So I think that's to answer how crucial it was to start, in fact, in one of the markets. And our expectation and our objective is obviously to roll this out as in many markets as we can across the globe. Regulation, you want to take that or?
Absolutely. So of course the internet neutrality or net neutrality debate is something which is very close to that discussion of zero rating, zero crediting. The most relevant debate for us on that is in Europe, and I think it's important to have that debate because this is about an open platform. So what is going on in Europe is something we are watching, we're participating, but we also want to shape that development, and that is something we are clearly aware of. Outside Europe, as you know, the discussion is not that advanced in our markets. On pricing and portfolio, would you like to say something on Russia?
Before we go to that, let me just make 1 or 2 comments to introduce the topic. But what's really important for us as we go all out digital is to fundamentally simplify our tariff structure. And that has huge implications in terms of positioning of VEON in the marketplace and our telecom brands, but also huge implications in terms of the transformation of our legacy IT systems. Because part of the reason that the industry has such high IT cost to revenue is because the inherent complexity that we've built into these systems. Right? And the system stack that we're rolling out is predicated on the basis that we're going to profoundly transform and simplify the tariffing structure that we have out there, as Shell said, and we'll repeat, around data pricing, which we feel is absolutely appropriate. So can you perhaps take the Russian angle where you've had tens of thousands of tariffs, right? And maybe Massimo can pick it up in what we've done already in Italy around the 2 tariffs that are absolutely center now to the business.
Yeah, I think this is...
Russia first.
Ah, sorry, yeah. In the meantime, I'm
happy.
standing up. Just
Yes, stretch our legs a little bit. Let me first follow on what Jean-Yves said. Simplification, cleanup, absolutely important. We have taken out 90% already. There's more to be done. This is just something that has to be done by every telco. We've come quite a long way. But back to the pricing structures in the Russian market. There is a secular trend in the Russian market from pay-as-you-go to bundles. More and more people want to go and have a bundle relationship with their provider. And Beeline started that push quite some time ago, and is the leader also in bundleization. We have paid a little bit of cost for that in terms of our interconnect, but we're clearly leading that secular trend. And that is something that we're going to continue with. We think the market is going that way. When it comes to the VEON launch, for me, that is much more about creating a personal or a private internet platform where we can drive new value to the customer base. I think the initial stages, which Christopher describes, the key attributes that we basically can be always on, is super important. But going down the road, I am a believer that the whole marketplace dynamic partnerships is going to be the real driver for people's excitement about being on the platform. To put this together, that is what I want to do with VEON. I don't see it as a way to transform the pricing structures. But we do put a lot of emphasis on driving data-centric pricing. And those of you who read Russian newspapers will see that that is in the media all the time now. It's being spoken about, and we have pushed that because we think it's the right thing to do, not only for ourselves, for the industry and for society, because it's absolutely unfair that heavy users drive so much network load that you have to build more and more capacity instead of spending your money on building coverage, which is much better for society and also much better for us in terms of being able to offer good services. So back to your question, I don't see VEON as a primary driver for reshaping the prepaid market in Russia.
Yeah, VEON and price and simplification are really tied to each other. We decided to launch 2 prepaid tariffs, just only 2 prepaid tariffs, for all new gross additions for new acquisitions in Italy. So the combination of a new customer downloading VEON is simplifying at a very big extent the offer portfolio in the market. Of course, this does not mean that if you are a customer of Wind, that has been a customer for a long time, that has another tariff plan and wants to utilize VEON, then of course that customer can download the application and use all the functionalities and features that are included. But it's important because the process of simplification is always based on the concept that customers really love the best customer experience where they cannot and they don't have to think. So big allowances, very clear, very transparent, the possibility to check those on the account that is embedded in the VEON application, but at the same time have the possibility to get more services thanks to the contextual marketing that Christopher was explaining before. This is integrated with the network, is integrated with the CRM of the company, so you can really get all this information, and that information is ready for whatever, let me say, upselling initiative that we want to play.
Very good. Before I give the next question, feel free to ask other topics as well. It's clearly catching the attention, which is good, but feel free on others as well. Roman, I promised you one.